It's all a big rush. Right, I think nearly everybody's, well, I'm just waiting for everybody to unmute or everybody to make themselves visible. Jess, I can see you there. and Angie. Okay. Right, I'm going to make a start because otherwise we don't want to run behind, do we? Welcome back, everybody. Week 4 now. Can't believe how quickly it's all moving on. Before we sort of launch into what we're going to do today, anybody got any questions to start off with? Anything anybody needs to know? No? Good. Heather, have you got anything that you need to say to anybody?
No, I'm fine.
No? Right, okay. Right, well, I shall get...
Just reading the chat. Angie's having her tea.
Oh, right. Okay.
I just thought it might be an important question that everyone would want to hear, and Angie's having her tea, but hey, that's fine.
You said till 6:30. So, yeah, it says having tea till 6:30.
Wow, that's okay.
Okay, I don't know where you are, Angie. Maybe you're in a different part of the world.
I think she said she's in work until 6:30.
Right.
Having her tea now.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, right, let's make a scene. That's a scene? Let's make a start. You want to make a scene, do we? Right, okay.
In this 4 weeks, Andrew will kill us.
Yeah, make a scene. Don't want to do that. Right, I'm just trying to find my bits and pieces that I need. Okay. Right, so Module 2. We're moving on to Module 2 today. So I'm going to start off by just sort of telling you what we're going to be going through today. I'm going to get you doing some practice in this.
Aha! I've muted you. I muted everybody, and you have to unmute, Debs. Debbie, you're going to have to unmute yourself. I thought it was easier for me just to mute everybody than turn them all off individually, but you were on part of the everybody list.
Okay. Right, I am back, so you can all hear me now. We could have done it with lip reading, but probably not a good idea. Okay, so welcome to week 4, module 2. So I'm just going to talk you through what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to talk you through the learning objectives. I'm sure you've all probably had a little bit of a read, so you've got some idea what's coming in this particular module. It starts to get a bit more meaty, gets more and more meaty as we go. Have a little bit of a recap on last week, nothing too major, mainly in relation to the critical faculty, because that's very important and it's very sort of relevant to what we're talking about today as well. We're going to be talking about post-hypnotic suggestions and suggestibility and suggestibility tests, and you're going to be practicing suggestibility tests on each other today. And we're also going to be looking at the signs and cues of hypnosis. So how, when you're working with a client, you can start to know when they're actually going into hypnosis, what to look for. And it's not as if you have to know these off by heart. You kind of learn them as you go, and it'll just become very intuitive. You will just start to recognize these signs, but just a good idea to go through those. And again, if we get time today, I'm going to start to get you working with each other, looking for those. But if not, I'll be getting you to continue with that in the practice when you're going to be doing suggestibility scripts with each other. So it'll be very much making you aware of some of the things you need to be looking for, and obviously the observer has an easier role because they can just watch, but whilst you're delivering the actual sort of script itself, to be keeping an eye out, if you can, on what's actually happening with your subject. Okay, so that's what we're going to be going through today. Just to take you through what we're going to be doing in this module over the next 2 weeks. Obviously, in the last module, we looked at the very basics, looked at how people create problems by looking at the various different models of the mind. And then we looked at how we might start to begin to solve these problems. You obviously all had quite a lot of practice with inductions, sort of actually relaxing people into hypnosis, learning to deepen, learning to release. So we did quite a lot of practice with that. And again, there's going to be times when you're going to be doing that throughout anyway, but really starting, I think, people to get to grips with that as we went through. So this module, we're really going to be looking about how we bring about a change in people. So how we can really help people to transform how they see their world and how they can change their perspective. Obviously, we can't change what's happened to them in their past. That's never going to be a possibility. But what we can do is help them to begin to see it differently, and change how they feel about what's happened to them, to give them whatever issue they're coming to see you about. Okay, so we're going to start off by going through the critical faculty again, just seeing what you remember from last week, because that's very, very key to actually enabling people to take on board suggestions of any sort. Little bit about the post-hypnotic suggestions. So really, by the end of this module, you should have a really good understanding about what that is, hopefully by the end of today, and some understanding of suggestibility, and how suggestibility can have an effect on some people being slightly more suggestible, but also that can have an effect on the time that hypnosis may be delivered, what emotional state they're in. There's all sorts of things that can affect our suggestibility. You're going to be performing some of those as well on each other. Again, you should have a good understanding on beginning to, or at least beginning to know what to look for when somebody's going into hypnosis. So to know whether somebody's actually starting to relax to that level. Next week, we're digging in more to the typical stages of the whole client consultation. So not just the hypnosis. The hypnosis is the tool at the end of the day, but actually looking at how we would run a session. So looking at all of that in a little bit more detail. So from next week, in your practice sessions, you'll be starting to run a full session. Mainly just looking at suggestions. We're not going to be digging into anything like hypnoanalysis just yet, but you will be starting to do that. Giving you a few ideas on student insurance, because that should be something you'd be thinking about now, because you are going to start practicing with other people, I'm sure. So it will be a good idea to get student insurance. So that will be something else I'll be giving you some ideas about. And then just overall, really feeling at the end of this module that you can conduct and sort of complete a whole hypnosis session from beginning to end, from the minute somebody rings you up to they walk in the door, the initial chat, going right through the hypnosis session and to the release. So yeah, so you should be quite some way forward by the end of this module. Okay, so just putting it out to you a little bit from last week. Obviously, last week we talked a lot about the different therapeutic techniques that we use as part of the Andrew Parr approach. We looked at contraindications of various different people that would be more difficult to work with, or people we need to be more aware of, and certainly some people that we can't work with. So we looked at quite a range of different things there, and I kind of finalised it by talking a bit about the critical faculty. So can anybody remember why that was so important, and what that critical faculty really is? I'm not going to pick on anybody, just anybody that would like to answer that.
Is it like the belief system, the person's belief system, or else? Well, no, it's the doorman.
Yeah.
That the door security man that lets that, depending on your belief system, decides whether or not they're going to accept that suggestion.
Yeah, that's a really good way of describing it. Yeah, so we used the analogy, didn't we, of the doorman, or Andrew uses the analogy of the doorman, who is, you know, as you rightly say, almost doorman of our belief system. So it's almost like the door policy. So are you able to come in? No, I'm not sure I really believe that. Therefore, it might be that, you know, they wouldn't let that idea in. So if we can't bypass that critical faculty, or get through that door, then we're not going to be able to introduce the new suggestions that client might want. Even though rationally and on a conscious level they want those changes to take place, they're not going to believe it, because that critical faculty is actually saying, you know, literally like the big doorman, that no way, you're not coming in, I don't believe that. So it doesn't matter how much they even rationally know that perhaps maybe they might be really sort of good at something, and everybody could be telling them this, but actually the belief system says, I don't really believe that, I'm not really good enough. So in order to get them to update their belief system, we need to bypass that critical faculty. And we will go into more details about how we will do that as time goes on. And something we'll talk about, which has been referred to in this module, is about hand sort of crafted suggestions, which are, which you need to bypass the critical faculty in order to do so. And that comes from very much personalising each client session. But we'll go into more detail about that as we go through. So that new door policy is all about helping your client create a new perspective, okay? And in some cases, a new identity. They see themselves differently, they see the world differently, and perhaps see the people around them differently. So quite well, very important. I think another word for the critical faculty really can be resistance. And that resistance isn't always, it's not always a conscious resistance. Somebody might really, really want to take it on board, but there's a sort of an unconscious resistance that will be stopping them from taking those beliefs on or believing what you're telling them. Okay. So ultimately, your aim when you're working with your clients is to help them to create a state of mind where the critical faculty is reduced or bypassed. And sometimes it can be reduced initially, and gradually it sort of updates as you do more sessions with them, or just as time goes past. Once the work has been done and things have been released, then it allows them to actually let those new beliefs in. So that can be a gradual process sometimes. It isn't a bit of a eureka moment for everybody. They don't walk out and think, I'm cured, everything's wonderful now. But you do get an element of that sometimes. Okay, so any questions about the critical faculty? You're all quite clear about what that is? Yeah? And, it's imperative that we do that in order to get people to sort of accept suggestions of any sort, really. So moving on to post-hypnotic suggestions. Now, this is it's often referred to as the PHS, and it's an instruction or something that you would suggest to a client when they're in hypnosis to suggest that they might think, feel and behave in a slightly different way after the actual session. So it's not just while they're there, you're actually planting that idea in their mind that they're going to go off and they're going to feel differently. Literally after the event. But as I said before, for that idea to be effective, it's actually got to take root. It's really got to be taken into the system and accepted without any resistance. And that's where bypassing the critical faculty becomes so important. And as we talked about the different types of hypnotherapy last week, there are some people who will only deal with this solution-based approach, but may not go through the journey, if you like, of trying to bypass that critical faculty. They will just deliver quite general suggestions, which will work for some people if they're in that right place to be suggestible, but they won't work for everybody. So it's like Andrew said, it'd be lovely if all we did was just sit and read a script and say, right, okay, you're going to feel wonderful now, and you're going to lose weight, or you're going to do all of these things without actually digging any deeper. But unfortunately, it's very rarely like that. So depending on the client's overall suggestibility, depends on how successful you're going to be with post-hypnotic suggestions. So quite often these suggestions will really come into play when you've done some work with the client to help them let go of some of those limiting beliefs that they might have. And their suggestibility can be different depending on, sort of what sort of day they've had. Like Yaz says, you've just come here straight from work. If you were to be put into a session now, the chances are it would take a little while for you to sort of come down, if you like. You would probably not be highly suggestible at this particular moment. And you don't know what might have happened to a client on the way there. They could have been in a traffic jam on the way there, so they're already quite worked up. All of these things might have an effect on how suggestible they might be. But also some people are more compliant than others. But part of our role is to get them to the point where they are more compliant and willing to accept the suggestions that they themselves want. They're suggestions that they will develop for themselves with you, which is what, when we get to talk about handcrafted suggestions, is what we're really trying to do. So Sometimes I'm sure you must have spoken to people that have had hypnotherapy, and they might have had hypnotherapy for smoking 20 years ago, and it's worked for 20 years, but now it's not working anymore. So sometimes these sort of quite general post-hypnotic suggestions, if delivered at the right time, can be very effective and may last for a very long time. But if you don't necessarily get to the root of why that was an issue in the first place, it's unlikely to be permanent. Sometimes people, as I said, it can just be days, weeks, months, whatever. So they can be permanent, I guess, if that person didn't really have anything too deep to dig into. But generally, they're not thought to be as permanent. Repetition, you'll find in a sort of post-hypnotic script, there will be the repetition of the same thing quite often throughout that to reinforce that idea. But also quite often hypnotherapists will make up audio sort of recordings. I do that sometimes with clients, sometimes if it's in between sessions. I don't do it with all clients. And sometimes you might do it at the end of the session when they've got that final sort of positive solution-based script, when they've let go of all the stuff that they needed to let go of, and you might suggest that they listen to it, certainly to begin with, repeatedly. I personally don't ask them to keep doing that, because I think that's like keeping somebody in therapy. It's keeping them relying on that. The idea is that that should start to embed in their own mind, and it's like sort of working with stabilizers to begin with, and then you eventually want to work without them, don't you? You want to take the stabilizers off. So repetition is an important part of hypnotic suggestion as well, post-hypnotic suggestion, sorry. The most effective post-hypnotic suggestion is when you actually get the client to go through some shift in their identity. So they see themselves differently. So somebody who may have thought that they were fat don't see themselves that way. Or somebody that maybe thought that they were stupid actually realise now, no, they're not. So it is that change of perspective, that change in identity that really helps to make that post-hypnotic suggestion actually sort of stay and be most effective. So examples of the type of hypnotic suggestions or post-hypnotic suggestions, you've got simple suggestions, and some of these might be fed into a script. So if you're doing a simple suggestion script, or even when you're bringing people up from a release, you quite often put in some sort of post-hypnotic suggestions that are quite simple, that'll say that you're going to feel much better when you come around. You're going to feel much more sort of calm, and you're going to feel a lot of clarity. So quite simple suggestions telling them what they're going to do. Things like every time you see a cigarette, you're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to say no, or you're going to think no. You sit down to your exam, you're going to remain calm, and you're going to remain quite calm and focused. And then the classic one that you hear every day in every way, you're going to get better and better. So it's kind of they're fairly direct but quite simple suggestions, and they're not necessarily talking about massive change, but quite simple, quite straightforward. So those are your simple suggestions. The identity suggestions tend to come about when you are trying to bring about a big change. So the example we've got here is from somebody that wants to give up smoking. So it would be that you will be now really happy and pleased to be a non-smoker. And in fact, I think the term that Andrew uses in some of his scripts is a natural non-smoker. So it's as if you never smoked at all. You've never done this. So it's taking on that identity, a natural non-smoker. And you're going to think, feel and behave like that. And that really helps to bring about that sort of belief, if you like, that you've actually made that change. You're still the same person. You are still that same person, but you have brought about that change. And a combination of the simple suggestions and the sort of identity suggestions can be really, really successful to help to bring about that change in surface level symptoms, such as somebody that perhaps just wants to give up smoking, wants to lose weight, that just to name one of many, really. So that's your sort of post-hypnotic suggestions. So you're going to, over this week with the practice, you're going to be doing some basically, well, sort of some very basic pre-written suggestion scripts. So rather than just an induction, you're going to actually deliver some suggestion scripts to each other. And again, like the induction scripts, this is really good practice for you to do this. And some of them are lovely and you'll pick out some really nice things from them. But over time, you'd be encouraged to develop your own approach so that you're actually having a much more sort of handcrafted approach. So each individual that you see, you're taking on board what's important to them, what changes they want to take place within them, and also using the language that they would use. Because if you use language that doesn't make sense to them, it's not going to have any effect. So again, as I said, we will come back to that handcrafted, very much bespoke suggestions. And there is that webinar on the members area that I'm not sure if you can access it. I know somebody was trying today. You should be able to, but it might just be that you might not be able to access it until the next module. But it's definitely worth watching that, and we will talk in more detail, and we'll be working with that in the sessions as well. So yeah, so suggestion scripts are very good and can be very good depending on where the client is, how ready they are to receive those suggestions, how close you are to bypassing that critical faculty. But sometimes you might need to do more work to begin with. Okay, so in terms of suggestibility, I've had many people will come in and say, I don't think I can be hypnotized. I'm not sure I can make it happen. You know, I don't think I can go under. Or some people will say, well, I've had hypnosis before, but it didn't work. So I don't think nothing was different. So some people will definitely be under that impression that they are not suggestible. In Andrew's experience, in my experience, and I think in most hypnotherapist experience, we are all susceptible to hypnosis at different points. Very few people aren't, but there are different levels. Some people are more compliant more easily, and maybe in different situations as well. I personally found when I was first training, I was very compliant when it came to doing something that was quite simple and happy. But as soon as it came to doing something where I might have to regress to something that wasn't quite so nice, I became less compliant. So it really depends on different individuals, I suppose. I did give in eventually, by the way. So it's so suggestibility this is quite a nice quote here, saying it's the extent to which a person is able to accept suggestion, and it varies according to one's state of mind. The greater suggestibility that an individual is experiencing, the greater effect the suggestions offered will have on that person's perception of reality. And in hypnosis, it's possible for people to reach high levels of suggestibility. So quite a nice definition of how hypnosis can do that. But again, that's never guaranteed. It really depends where that person is at that particular time, what the environment is, and so on. Also, another point to make is that you don't need to look as if you're asleep and have your eyes closed necessarily to be in some form of trance. I think a lot of what we're talking about is actually being relaxed and focused enough and cut off from the outside world enough to actually go inside. That's what we're actually trying to achieve. And there are quite a lot of examples of waking hypnosis that we all do on a daily basis. Can any of you think of things that would be an example of that? Where we're trance. Yes, yeah.
I used to drive home from work every day, and because I took the same route or like the same, set of routes, I would get home and realize that I had no memory of like the trip. Like I would just be on autopilot driving the same road every time.
That's a really good example. I mean, it's a good example of your subconscious driving you home, really, isn't it? Your body knows what to do. And I think there's certain people, I don't know if anybody's read Joe Dispenza and people like that, but he just says that the body is your subconscious, really. It knows what to do. It knows how to walk. It knows how to talk. It knows how to eat. And we don't consciously think about doing those things. So I think we've all done that, haven't we? Where we've got home and thought, oh, how did that happen? How did I do that?
Yeah.
So once we learn to do something, it becomes just subconsciously we do it, and we are in effect in a bit of a trance. Anybody else think of anything else that would be an example of that?
Watching TV.
Yeah, actually, I suppose it can be, can't it? Yeah. There are times, aren't there, where you're just not actually, you're not seeing it at all, are you?
Or watching TV and you're not aware of what's going on around you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So you're just so focused on that idea. Yeah. So yes, that's actually, I had a funny example of, well, it's not funny really, but I was watching a film called Law Abiding Citizen. I don't know if any of you have seen it. Very good film, but quite sort of hair raising. And there's a bit where there's explosions going off and everything. And I was so involved in this film. And my husband at the time had set fire to himself in the room by putting ethanol on the fire. But on the actual film, it was all blowing up. And I really hadn't quite, I'd lost touch with reality. You know, I really thought, am I in a film? What's going on? You know, and I was so absorbed that, so I guess that was an example of that. So, so watching TV when you're so taken in like that is a good example. Anything else you can think of?
When you walk
Cooking.
home to your old address.
Sorry?
When you walk home to your old address, you know.
Yeah, or drive home, yeah, actually.
You're doing work at home and you go out the wrong way, even though maybe the door's been blocked up. So you're on autopilot.
Yes, yeah. So it is that being on autopilot. Daydreaming's another thing as well, you know, where you're just going off to another place and you're focused on another idea. So there's lots of examples of waking hypnosis. Anybody got any others that you can think of?
Running?
Playing games, like computer games, some of them where you just, like, especially children, where they're on their phones and stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit like the TV, isn't it? They're so absorbed in that world that, they don't see anything on the outside. And that is exactly the state, really, you're trying to get your clients to. So that they are so absorbed in what you're asking them to do that they are completely cut off from everything outside. They're not asleep. I think a lot of people come and think that they're going to not remember anything, but they will. Very rarely that people don't remember. And the chances are, if they don't, they were asleep or they were in such a deep trance, which can happen. So, so that's, you know, the suggestibility. We've all got perhaps different levels at different times, but ultimately, most people can be sort of put into hypnosis. And it isn't a case of under, it's into. So many people say, am I under? Was I under? But you're not under. That's when you have an anaesthetic. So, okay. So suggestibility tests. Now, suggestibility tests can be quite a good thing to do if you have somebody that is a little bit sort of skeptical about it. So if you have a client and you feel like you need to kind of make a point, it can be something you can do. If once you actually set up as therapists, some of you might already be operating as different types of therapists, and you give a talk at a local sort of community or a local group, it's quite a good way of making a demonstration to people, the power of suggestibility and how it works, really. So it can be quite a good thing to do. And it's probably quite a good fun thing to do with your family at the moment and friends while you're doing this, just to sort of let them know what you're doing. I think a few of you last week, when you were doing some of the inductions, did some of these as inductions, which you can do. You can actually use that. And there's an option when you come to try these out today to choose one of those. So they can be used as that. But they can be just a very useful thing for you to build confidence with the client, but also to build your own confidence, if you like, just to remind yourself that it works, so it is quite a good thing, and it does give you an idea of how suggestible your subject may be in that particular moment. So again, as I said, they might be more suggestible one day than they are another day, depending on what's going on in their life, what's happened that day. Okay, so that's the kind of purposes behind them, and they are very much used for showmanship a lot of the time. That's making my eyes go funny now. Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is go into your breakout rooms shortly, and in your module, if you go, I can't remember what page it is, you've got a few choices. So what I'd like you to do in your groups is perhaps try a few different ones, and have a go on each other with these. Same thing as before, you've always got an observer who can be watching that as well. But the book and the balloon is one I think a few people might have tried last week, which is probably one of the most common ones. The magnetic hands one and the magnetic fingers. So they're the three I want you to look at. Not too worried about the pendulum one. You can try that one if you want to. I think it might be more difficult to do in this sort of environment, but the other ones will be easier to work with, I think. So going to put you into your groups. Are you all quite happy with that? All know what you're doing? Yeah, and you've all got access to those scripts as well. You've all got them in front of you.
Just logging on now.
But I
We
would
don't
say,
have the book and balloon.
sorry?
The book and balloon one isn't in the module, or not that I can see anyway.
It should be. I think it was when
I've got it.
yeah, it should be there. Yeah, I think, what page?
It's page 11.
Yeah, page 11.
12.
Oh, it's not.
Yep, you haven't got it.
That's all.
Have you got an older version, Rachel, maybe?
No, I'm missing page 11.
Okay, we can put that right for you, but not maybe now. But maybe do one of the others then. If you try one of the others.
Yeah, I will.
But if when you get into your groups, try and sort of switch around and try different ones on each other. So just to get a bit of practice of doing them. Okay.
Debbie,
Yes.
just very quickly, do you know the magnetic fingers one? Is it
Yeah.
are your fingers like this or like this?
Trying to remember how I haven't done this one for ages. Heather, have you done that one for a while?
Yep, I know which one she means.
Can you demonstrate? to
Gallery
us
view.
the
You need to
position?
be on gallery view so you can.
We
also-
can't see anything.
Okay, right, I'll put you all up. Hold on. Oh, come back. Oh, why didn't it do it? I've lost everybody. There you go, you're back. Right, okay, where are you, Heather? Can you demonstrate?
Okay, you have your finger. If you clench your hands like that, and then stick your pointy fingers out, and that's what you're trying to do. Getting to close that gap.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's a lot easier than doing the hands because you have to imagine there's magnets in your hands and they're pulling you together and they're pulling you together and they're pulling you. And when you get them there, then your head goes down. When
Yeah.
you're doing this, you've naturally got some tension. So you've only got to sort of just relax a bit and your fingers go together anyway.
It's quite an easy one to do.
So it's a lot easier to do that one. Might not tell you what their suggestibility is. It might just say, "Ah, my fingers are hurting. I'm just giving up."
I think the book and balloon one's quite a good one to start with. As I say,
Yes, I did that on my home group.
yeah, that's quite a good one to
I'll
start.
tell you what happened afterwards.
Oh, no, you tell us now, or would that ruin
No,
things?
no, no. I'll let them practice it first. I'll tell you about it afterwards. Okay.
Okay, Heather, I'll let
Are
you.
are we doing a whole induction, or are we just going to test
No,
do
no.
these three things?
You're just doing these suggestible
Okay.
utility ones.
Okay.
So, yeah, you've got to try and have a go, each of you, at a few different ones as well. So, I mean, I can give you, what time is it now? About 45 minutes. That should give you all a chance to have a go at a few, I think.
Okay. They were talking about 8 o'clock breaking to go to the vigil for the yearly celebration, the doorstep.
Oh, did you want to do that? Can do if people want to. Yeah, do it for 20 minutes and then do that if you want to do that.
Yeah, so you can sort of just come out decide in your breakout rooms, take 5 minutes out and then come back to your breakout rooms. Okay?
Okay, we'll leave that down to your personal choice. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, ready?
Okay,
Zoom them all off. Bye.
Okay. bye.
Oh, I just love it when I play. Oh, why is Ali last?
So am I on 1 and 2 again?
And we've got 6. So if you do 1, 2, 3, I can do 4, 5, 6.
Brilliant. Okay, right. Okay,
Yeah,
and
there's
let's say
18 of
so,
them.
so some of them are going to disappear at 8 o'clock. So we'll just.
Well, they can just stay in their breakout rooms and.
So what does that take us up to? It's 20 to 8 now. So probably if they do take a break, that probably takes us up to about 8:30, doesn't it?
Yeah, by the time they've done the vigil.
We've got messages there. What's this? Oh, I see. That's the one you just seen. Okay.
That's the message, the video.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. I guess we'll go back.
Where am I going?
I don't know.
I'm going to number 4.
So I'm going to 1, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah.
Yep.
My screen's got small. Let's get me bigger. That's it. Right. Okay. See you in a bit.
Back in again.
Oh, hang on. Heather. Phoebe's got a problem with her computer, so she's got to restart Zoom and then come back in.
That'll be fun. Okay.
Bye.
Right, I better leave the room and go back to the main room so I know when she's come back.
Yeah.
You can add
Thank
it back
you.
in again.
Hi, Heather. Hi, Heather. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You can't hear me.
Good. Okay,
Now,
perfect.
now the fun will be trying to get you back in the room.
I think I was room 4. Can I go back to that one?
Assigned to room 4.
Oh my God, that's never happened to me before. Oh,
Well, I'm impressed. It worked.
oh my God, that was way smoother than I thought.
I just know that I can't be in a breakout room. So if I find a breakout room, then I can't hear if anyone comes in and out.
Oh,
That's the only thing.
I was thinking, oh God, I hope they let me in. They're not all busy. I'm just like waiting to be let in the room. Oh.
Oh dear. Very quickly, are we doing the 8 o'clock thing?
Yeah, I don't mind. I actually didn't know it was on. I feel really bad. I didn't even know.
I didn't know either.
Okay, so you can just carry on if you want.
Yeah.
Depends what you. I mean, if I go out to do mine, I might be the only one in the street.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember what it was like when we used to do the applause. It started well, but then
Yeah, exactly. The pots and the pans for ages, and then all of a sudden there's no other neighbours, and you're like, still going.
I mean, well, my town did a 1 minute silence at 12 o'clock.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was out in the shops and they did a 1 minute silence. So
Yeah.
If you're all home alone, how do you know?
exactly.
Whatever.
Oh, you
Whatever you want to do.
You should have had the news on, Heather.
I did. I actually watched most of the news today because I was wanting to know what CERN laboratory had done that was shifting the physics world. But it was right at the end, so I had to sit through the whole of the lunchtime news just to find out what CERN laboratory was doing. And at the end, I was going, well, that doesn't tell me anything anyway.
Usually the way.
I normally just watch the headlines, otherwise it's a bit too depressing. Okay, so who wants to practice which one?
I don't have the book and balloon because my printer messed up and somehow I've missed page 11. So
You'll never forget what page it's on now, Rachel.
never. Never.
Must be a post-hypnotic suggestion in there.
I can do that one if you want. I've got it up here.
Yeah, book and balloon is quite fun.
I've not actually read through it yet, so I need to just figure out what I'm doing.
That's
Okay.
fine. I'm literally reading through as I go as well.
Right. So,
I'll see what the others are up to.
okay, see you in a bit. Right, so
Did you
Imagine that these magnets are so strong that they are slowly pulling your hands together. And as your hands get closer and closer, the magnets will pull stronger and stronger, stronger and stronger, drawing your hands closer and closer together, until when they finally meet and your hands touch, your hands can fall down into your lap. They're getting closer and closer, and that magnetic current is getting stronger and stronger. You can feel the force, you can feel the current. They're getting closer and closer, and when they touch, they drop down into your lap. I think we probably do that sitting down, don't we?
Well,
Could
I
you
don't
feel the
know.
magnets?
Yeah.
I did feel it starting to get a bit tingly.
Yeah. But
Beautifully
because
read,
it does
beautifully
fall
read,
into your
Claire.
lap, I would have thought
Bravo.
you'd be better sat there, and then
Well, no,
they'll
'cause
drop.
I've not
wouldn't
got much room.
they? Because
I haven't had Ali saying, oh gosh, Heather's here. Hello, Heather. We're not there.
Hello, Heather. But if
Heather.
you were being girls, if you were being hypnotized, you wouldn't get up to do that suggestibility test, would you? You
No,
do
but
it
often
sitting or
I've
lying.
seen it done in a classroom full of people, and so everyone stands up and does these
Oh,
exercises.
of course, yeah. Sorry,
So
I'm just
it-
Seen the
we're
book,
doing
the book
it.
and
I
the
just-
balloons
it
up
was
when you're
It
standing.
was easier for
I
me
was
to
going to say,
stand.
it's easier to stand up if
Yeah,
you're
the
doing
book and balloons, though, is easier to stand.
Okay.
stuff.
It's just they stood up and then it said they dropped down into your lap. So it didn't
I
quite
know,
work.
which is why it's so great reading scripts. I've actually read all sorts of rubbish out reading a script before now, and I've been going into trance whilst reading it. And in brackets, it'll say, "Now do something," and I've read that out and not even known I've done it.
Yeah, I have. That's the thing. It's great.
You just, yeah.
I would have thought something like this, once you've done it a couple of times, it's really easy to use your own words, though, isn't it?
I'll tell you the one I use, Claire, because I've had a few people that will sit there and go, "You can't hypnotise me. I'm not, really dead against it." But I always use the finger one, the one that Heather said.
Yeah.
That's actually.
Is that on? Oh, that right. Go on then. Don't.
Will
just
you
say
do
it,
that one on
it.
me then?
We're doing it now.
Yeah,
Off you go, Ali.
Yeah. So just put your hands together. Put your fingers.
Powerful magnets in each hand. And as you imagine the magnets, I want you to feel your hands pulling together. So relaxing, the magnets are very, very strong. And the more you try to pull your arms apart, the more they want to come together. That's it. Good. They're getting more and more powerful now. The magnets are getting stronger as you feel your hands pulling together. Relax into it. The more you try to pull your arms apart, the more they try to come together. Try to pull them apart, find they're coming together. That's good. Feel how strong the magnets are now, pulling your hands closer and closer. Try to pull them apart, find they become closer still. That's good. Feel those powerful magnets. That's good. They're getting stronger and stronger now. You can feel the magnets in between each hands now. Your hands want to come together now. Feel how powerful those magnets are. Feel that magnetic force. That's good. That's good. And they're coming together, and they're coming together, and they're almost together. And just allow yourself to relax. Powerful magnets come together now. That's brilliant. That's good. The more you try to pull your hands apart, the closer they're coming together now. You're trying as hard as you can, but you just can't fight that force as they're coming together and they're coming together. That's great. And you can open your eyes now.
Laughing because as soon as you started doing it, I think you'd only said about 2 words about them coming together. I could feel them going together. So that's why I was laughing, because it was working straight away.
How far apart did you start your hands
Very.
there, Siri? Yeah, you're supposed to start your hands about there. Not here.
I was just following orders.
You kind of start
Following
about here.
Just better
I mean,
demonstration actually with them like that.
Yeah, I see. You kind of just
Quite
start them
painful.
there. And then you've only got to go there.
I'll do this one next time.
But your background interferes with our picture because your hand was waving in and out of your virtual background there. So I'm thinking, I can see one hand.
Yeah.
I have no
I
idea
was wondering what was going on then.
I'm thinking, how far away
No,
is
that's
she?
very
wide apart.
I thought it was a painting. I didn't realise it was virtual, so I was getting a bit confused.
No, it's only when she moves you
Oh.
realise. But yes, if you get them to start with their hands about that far
It's not
apart,
as hard.
it doesn't take quite
Yeah.
so long.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, it works. I could just see you just going. No, it don't work. I love it. But it's never this funny when Andrew's teaching the course. Okay, so future reference, start about
Make
there.
it easier on myself.
Make it easier on everyone.
It just shows the power of suggestion, though, because my hands were following your words almost before they'd even come out of your mouth.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, it's like when Andrew was doing it, as soon as I felt the book, it was like, yeah, I really felt the heaviness of it. Yeah. Funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the. Did you kind of ad lib a little bit, Angie, there about trying to pull them away? I'm going, I don't remember
Yeah,
that in the
because
script. I'm thinking that's not in the
yeah, it's
script.
because I haven't got a printer to print all the things out. So normally I'd go on my phone and it's not letting me see it on the phone. But luckily I've done these before. So I was just sort of going from memory, but yeah.
And the more you try and pull them apart, I'm going, I don't remember that bit. I don't remember that bit at all. But yeah, start from about there.
Do you want to have a practice, Siri, now?
Yeah, so
I'll observe.
Yeah, I'm not
really, isn't it? But the balloon one though, everybody would do that.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to do the fingers one then.
So the fingers one, it doesn't say to close your eyes, it just says, yeah, you don't close your eyes.
Okay.
Well, we'll try the fingers one then. Do that one then, Rachel, on me and Phoebe.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get through it, we'll do that.
Okay, right, so cross your fists and index fingers straight up. Okay. Now, I want you to imagine I am placing a powerful magnet on the inside of each fingertip. And when I say so, these powerful magnets are switching on and pulling your fingers together like this. All of your attention must be between your fingertips. As your fingertips get closer and closer, the magnets get stronger and stronger, and your eyes begin to feel heavier and heavier. In fact, the moment your fingers meet together, your eyes will close down, your head will relax forward, and a wave of relaxation will flow down through your entire body, from your top of your head to the very tips of your toes. Your hands and fingers will become limp, loose, and relaxed, and will fall into your lap, and you will relax into a deep and restful state of hypnosis. The magnets are now on. You will begin to feel the pull as your fingers are getting closer and closer, and your eyes can begin to feel heavier and heavier, and getting ready to relax deeply. Your fingers will continue to close tighter and closer together. Now just relax. Let your head relax forward. Let your arms relax into your lap and go into a deep and restful state of hypnosis. Just letting go completely now. And open your eyes.
Well,
That was
good.
quite good. I like that one.
was good, isn't it? Yeah.
That was a lot better.
That was so good to watch.
Yeah, that one was better than the book and the balloon.
Yeah, definitely. Because you can relax your elbows on your stomach, can't you? So it's just like, oh, that was good.
I like that one. Did I get it right, Heather?
Yeah. I mean, I was my fingers go there, and then there's Phoebe's got feet. I'm going, I can't figure out get my fingers that far apart.
You cannot,
How do you do that? I've got long. I've only got kids size hands.
I have quite big hands.
Yeah. I have size gloves that fit 6 and 7 year olds.
Oh my gosh.
They're tiny.
Oh.
I'm going, I can't keep my fingers apart.
Oh my
Well, that one worked.
Freaking effective.
That one, so much better than the balloon one.
Yeah.
We didn't really like that one, Heather.
Okay. You've only got the magnetic hands, a variation. The magnetic hands is the variation, just putting magnets there and there. And you just sit there and you just watch, just focus. You need to have your eyes open, because if you're doing it, you just need to focus and focus and focus.
So can you use that as an induction?
Yeah, and then you can.
Well, it did seem to work as an induction.
Because what you're doing, the main point of an induction is to take someone from the outside thinking world to the inside, just focusing on one idea. And when you're focusing on this idea, that's all you're thinking of. So you're going inwards, and that's what an induction needs to do. So if you do the magnetic hands, the other group someone started with their hands here. It will take forever. Just get someone to start just about there. So you just say you're just going to put some magnets, one there and one there, and you just switch them on. You just get them to watch the gap. Just imagine the magnet, just feel the gap, just watch the gap. Just watch your hands getting closer and closer. And it's the same principle. As soon as you do that,
So I suppose it's similar to counting down 1 to 10 then down the staircase.
Yeah, it's just focusing on an idea and forgetting everything else and just going with it.
I feel like also because the fingers and the hands, you're going inwards, whereas when you're doing this, I feel like it makes you feel more like sort of vulnerable, more open, whereas this, it's like closing in and more relaxing. I don't know, but it feels better to me to do that.
Yep, it's nearly 8 o'clock. If you're planning on taking a break, I'll go see what the others are doing.
Thank you. Is anyone stepping outside?
I don't think so.
No, you can pre-label the axis, but many people prefer to let the subject choose which is which, as follows. As you relax right, so should we practice? I just read through. All right. Oh, hello.
It's nearly 8 o'clock if you're going to go and do your vigil.
Oh yes, it is.
Oh yeah, you better go and.
We've all got our pendulums, Heather, to scare each other with.
Nice. Is it a boy or a girl?
Mine's a boy. Sebastian. Mine's a name.
Sebastian.
Yeah.
I am so sorry, Claire, for giving you these two lovely ladies. I do apologise. I will make sure I check the breakout room list.
I did giggle a lot, Heather. I said to Alison, we won't be allowed to stay together. Right, I'm going to go and stand on my doorstep.
Yeah, you go stand on your doorstep. There's no point because there's no one here. Not that.
Okay. Are you still there, Heather?
I'm still here.
What? Yeah, we thought we'd have a go at the pendulum one, and we were wondering.
Pendulum with Andrew, to be honest, we never did it. But I know my yeses. That's yes for me, and that's no. But I would never have thought of using this in hip, with anyone. I have to be honest.
I thought it was going to be the classic.
Yeah,
You were getting sleepy thing.
that's why I wouldn't use it, because it's the classic.
Yeah.
You are getting sleepy. Watch the world.
If I got this out,
how did that work?
I know they would laugh.
Yeah.
It would freak them out. But I just happen to have a pendulum.
My
Just
question
happen to have one on you. Why am I not surprised? Sorry, Claire.
What do you mean, Heather?
You're not cackling, are you?
I am so sorry, Claire.
I'll have to practice my cackle. Yeah, why would you want, I understand a yes and no. Why would you want a don't know answer?
Yeah, I don't get that one. I don't understand the don't know at all. No, doggy, you can't go out at the moment. You have to wait.
But it's just to represent that something's happening. If you did that to the client, which I don't think I would, it's because it's to show the client that they're suggestible, isn't it? So I get the hands, the magnets, and the fingers, and the book and the balloon.
Yeah, so just stick with those. Just stick with those, and listen to these two and their pendulum.
No, I don't use my pendulum at all with people. Absolutely not.
Okay. Stick with the book and the balloon, the fingers and the hands.
We just thought for completeness we'd have a go.
We'll
go back to the ones that we will use now then.
These two have both done the course and are going to be trouble. I can feel it.
Never. I was saying,
there's a few people that have done the course though, aren't there, Heather?
There's only 3. Yeah, Ali, Rue, and Celia. Celia's not here again this week, and she hasn't.
No, Celia said she's here tomorrow night.
All right.
I don't know if she's working, but she just sent a little message saying, "I'll see you tomorrow night, girl."
Right.
So
she sent me a message last week, and I didn't get one. So.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
I was going to say, Heather, what I tend to find is that little finger one like that is really good for suggestibility, because it's not big movements for people and they're not that self-conscious, and if they relax, your fingers naturally.
I gotta say, it's so much easier to go there. I've just watched one group and they were doing the hands, but she started off like here and I'm going,
oh yeah.
Really?
No,
you start off about here.
So you'd actually do it when they're in hypnosis after you've done the induction and the deepener?
No, this is the induction. Oh. This is the induction. If you
so you do this whilst they're awake and present before you start.
Because you say,
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, you say to them, I'm going to. If you're there, you can touch them. So I'm just putting a strong magnet there and there. Just hold hands, and just when I say so, I just want you to imagine that magnet's being turned on. So I'm going to turn the magnet on now. Just feel that energy. Just feel that attraction. Feel the attraction just pulling your hands closer and closer. And the closer they get, the stronger that magnet is. The stronger the magnet comes, they get closer and closer. Doing well. Nearly there. Just getting stronger and stronger. Closer and closer. Nearly there. Nearly touching. Just feel that magnet. And when your hands touch, your head goes down and your eyelids close. And that's your induction. Because the idea of an induction is to get someone thinking from out there, focused inwards. And that just focuses it on one attention, one thing.
So they're feeling the force from the suggestion.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on their hands.
Yeah.
So
they're
everything
just focusing
else,
on one idea, so everything else goes away, and you
got you.
And that's the aim of an induction.
But it's also proving to them that they're suggestible.
Yeah, it also, if somebody is not sure, then it is proof for them, because as soon as their hands touch, they think, oh, I'm in hypnosis then.
Cool.
Very subtle. But we're leaving the pendulums at home, Rue.
I was given this by my NLP.
I don't want to know.
I didn't dare. It freaked me out, Heather.
I know.
But you know, we never actually looked at this that much last year when we did the course.
We didn't do it at all, did we? I didn't even know it.
No, it's interesting to look at it. I was
What
being
amazed this is
interested.
working on Zoom, because it's so much easier to do this in the classroom, because you touch the person, because when you're doing it with someone first, and you touch them and say, I'm putting it here and here, and then you actually put your hands around theirs and just help guide them together, so that they get a feel, and you do it about 3 times, and then you go, and when they touch, your hands go down, so you push their hands down, and then you touch the back of their head, and they just get into that, and you do this 3 times. So by the last time you get to the last time, you're not touching them, but their body just knows what to do.
Well, you do this 3 times with them, a bit like a fractionation, is it?
Yeah, it's like fractionation.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise that. I didn't quite click with that. I have to be honest.
So it's easier to do this in a classroom, but this is fine.
So you do a practice run and then do it
2
more times. Yeah.
There is a webinar, isn't there? There is one where I see Andrew do it, and he does it with a guy, and I think he does it 3 times, to be honest.
So the first time you're kind of touching them, you touch their hands, and then you're guiding their hands and just force it, and then when they get to there, you just push their hands down, just touch the back of their neck, just to get it going.
So on Zoom, it's really quite important to make sure that the hands aren't out there, that the hands you actually
it takes
stay
forever out there.
Yeah, otherwise you'd be there all night.
Well, I had visions of by the time when she's got to there, she was going to go like that and miss it completely.
Heather, did you ever use the pendulums in the classroom, or have you ever?
No, not really. No, you just explained why it happened.
Does he have one?
I can't remember if he actually did have one. I don't think he did.
I just remember it not really. I don't even remember looking at it. It's funny, isn't it? So yeah,
I don't remember that at all.
Probably because in the classroom you'd have to provide or make sure everybody had pendulums.
Yeah,
so
that's
everyone's got hands and fingers, haven't they?
Yeah, that's we were all given one by my NLP hypnotherapy first coach. Yeah, he did give on the last day, because I was just like freaked out. And there was a lady there that was a Christian that used it all the time in her Christian counselling, and I was even more freaked out.
Oh well.
So I just thought, it's horses for courses, isn't it? I think some people like some things and some people like other things. So you choose what suits you and your client.
Well, don't laugh, and this might sound really strange, but I actually found a lost passport once using a pendulum, just by going round the house and saying, is it upstairs, downstairs, is it in this room, and it was in a bedside cabinet which I'd searched through several times, but it had gone behind the drawer.
Yes.
And the pendulum helped me find it.
Okay, and that worked.
Don't ask me how.
And that worked because.
But it worked. A friend told me to do it, and it worked.
And it worked.
And I found the passport within a couple of hours of needing to leave. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Holiday.
Because somewhere in your subconscious, it knew where it was.
Yes.
Your subconscious triggers the little micro muscles.
It's amazing, isn't it, that it does do it?
So it's a way of getting your subconscious to just tell you what it knows that you've forgotten.
It's bypassing, isn't it? Yeah. By that initial bit, gets in the way.
Because your conscious will say, I've checked this, I don't need to check this again. And the subconscious says, actually, it's in there, it's in there, it's in there.
It says on here, the pendulum can be an effective tool in acquiring information that is being processed more unconsciously, as well as a test of suggestibility, but more often used as a light-hearted demonstration. Why is it a test of suggestibility? That's the bit I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I don't know. Another question for Andrew.
That's in the notes.
Whatever. Once again, my apologies for giving you these
cats.
No, I don't think Andrew told us. I don't think he went into it. I don't remember it at all. So whether he didn't, I don't know.
It's just not a big. It's just one of those things that maybe NCH says you need to put in and cover, and it's a tick box.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
But also, some people love them, and they are popular. They can be popular in some
course myself.
Really?
Done it. However, when I inquired about this course, Andrew phoned me and gave me an interview. And
Andrew phoned me for this.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wish that I had have seen this first and done this first, because I feel like I learned a lot from it at the course itself, but the after, it's like once you've sort of done everything, it's like they don't want to know you unless you pay loads and loads of money to them. It's just not a very good setup. Whereas this, from the start, Andrew's lovely and all the team are lovely, and so yeah,
you're gonna have to do an awful lot to get rid of me.
No, it's good. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's good though.
So how are you guys all doing?
We're all right. Yeah.
We were trying a few different things there, which was fun.
Yeah, when you nearly fell off your chair.
But
so Sunny was doing one with my eyelids, and I after the count, we were counting down from 20 to 1, and after about 15, I really couldn't open my eyes. I could only do this, like the sort of like little, like those tiny bits of light coming in, and then I felt my head going like this, and I was sitting at the edge of my chair, so I literally almost fell off my chair because I was like, here. I'm just glad she did the release.
Good.
Brought me back to reality. Yeah.
Dangerous thing, this hypno.
I know. It was one of the concerns I had when we said we were going to do it online and doing hypnosis over this kind of way. I was like, what if someone's internet connection cuts off in the middle?
That happened on our practice session.
Yeah,
I think it was Heather didn't come in our room. I don't think it was Deborah, but yeah, one of the girls, her face was just like that, and me and the other girl, the girl who was doing it, and I was observing. We both looking at each other like, is it us? Because we were both moving like that, and this poor was just like Katie. Well, she was poor. Kate was just like that. I know, we didn't know, but then like the girl, Kate, was hypnotizing the person. And we were like, oh, because me and the observer were like that. But then all of a sudden, the person being hypnotized, I can't remember who it was now. I think it might be Rachel. She just she was there like that, and then she went, has something happened? Because it had gone quiet. But we didn't know what to say. We were like, oh, it's like, what's going on? Yeah. But it's just, you just got to, that's when Debbie said, wasn't it, you have to tell them beforehand if anything happens, just to count to 3, wasn't it? Yeah, and bring yourself out of hypnosis.
Yeah.
But it is
in your eyes, really.
But if I've had somebody where the person who's being the therapist has fallen off like that, and I've been watching it, then I've just taken over the session.
Oh yeah.
And when they've come back in, they've just carried on. So that's how we done it. And someone, they said, did your voice change halfway through? I thought that was Heather talking to me, but I didn't start off with Heather. And then you were back, so I was all right.
It does have that effect.
Yeah, so we kind of just tag teamed them. Good. So have you done everything once?
We've all done something once, yeah.
Yeah, we've all had to go.
I think she's thinking of going to 8:30ish, so you can practice something else. Yeah. Siri, having your hands nearer.
Why are you blaming me? I was just following orders, and it was a very good demonstration because it showed that even if you're like this, it still works. It was painful. Oh my goodness.
Anyone got anything they want to try then?
I'm looking through my scripts just now to see if there's anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, Heather.
Hiya.
We're just talking about the science behind how things work and how it's important to know the science to help you kind of believe it more.
And how unsuggestible I am.
Yeah.
What you are today in this moment.
What's that? Oh yeah, yeah. Might be better than this tomorrow. You never know. But because Louise did the magnetic hands, didn't move at all.
Didn't move at all.
Oh, well, it is. Phoebe went right under.
See, this is the joy of having it in the classroom, because when you're in the classroom and you do it, you physically get their hands down, putting a magnet there, and you touch them. And then when they're doing it, you have your hands the other side, so you just help their hands go together. And then when you get to that, you put your hand on top and just push it down, and then just touch the back of their neck. So you, and then you do that again, and then the third time you kind of just let them run it. So the body already knows what it needs to do because it's had 2 practice sessions.
Okay.
So
I wonder if it might have been more effective on me had someone done the magic fingers on me first, perhaps.
yeah, because as soon as you relax, you need a fair amount of tension to keep your fingers apart.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start relaxing, they'll just naturally come together.
Close.
But how does it sound? Because your connection's a bit cutting in and out. Is that interfering at your end?
My computer's been doing it all night.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
But you were better, Rachel, with the book and the balloon one. You were better with that.
Oh, you did the book and balloon, all right then.
Yeah, she was better. Rachel was better with the book and balloon. She had her hands going up and down and that.
It's kind of like that. Kind of about there.
Whereas I found it too sore in my shoulders.
Yeah.
And my arms went down, but I preferred the finger one was better for me. The magnets.
Yeah. But also that to you, Rachel, made more like logical sense, didn't it? Because you said with your palm up, you naturally want to go up anyway.
Yep.
Maybe that helped.
It's the physiology of the human anatomy. Your arm that way round is the wrong way round, so it always wants to go down anyway.
There you go. You see, that's another reason for doing that is because you're working with the muscle group.
Yeah.
Another reason why it will work. So it's suggestion, but you're actually working with where the body wants to naturally go.
Yeah.
Because if you go the other way, if you try to work it that way, you're working against physically you're working against your body.
Yeah.
If you go that way, you're working with your muscle groups and there's all these subtle things you see.
Is it working like the left and right hand side of your brain then? Because you're doing like both sides.
No, it's just
the right's supposed to work the left and vice versa, isn't it? That was what Andrew was doing. Remember with the breathing exercises, he had the right nostril. Breathe in through the right nostril, close it, and then you breathe back out again, and it kind of.
And it was opposite sides of the brain, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
okay. Let's go see where Debbie is, because I've got 2 groups that kind of finished. Let's go see how the troublesome group is doing.
These breakout rooms are so funny, aren't they?
I know.
They're so funny.
Because I could fit it round looking after my mum and dad. And,
how much longer have we got, Heather?
Heather,
how much longer have we got?
I'm just wondering because my 3 groups are finished, so I'm going to see if I can find Deb. When
Yeah,
I
yeah, no,
I
we're
jumped in
done.
the room with Debbie, she jumps on something to a different room. Must be me.
Oh, you actually tried to find Debbie? Okay,
I know where she is.
Okay, we've not seen her at all. Oh,
because she's looking after rooms 1, 2, 3, and I've got 4, 5, 6.
Oh, okay.
Are they all behaving themselves, Heather?
Well, apart from room 6 here.
What is she saying?
I don't know. What am I saying there, Annie?
I'm going to practice them all on my sister.
I'm sorry I missed Friday, Heather. I was having my post-COVID jab malaise, I'm afraid. I don't think I even remember Friday morning. I was just like not really with it.
I had mine Friday afternoon and Saturday and Friday night. I had flu chills. Saturday I felt rough, and I thought, Well, I'm glad I didn't book somebody's session in today.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I had mine yesterday and I've just felt really, really sleepy.
Can I ask, why do people think that having the jab will protect them from getting COVID? Are people stupid? Why do they think that? It doesn't do that. It stops you possibly getting COVID badly, but it doesn't stop you getting it. What? I just think, are people just naive?
Perhaps the hypnosis and the placebo effect does the rest.
Yeah, I think
rubbish. I just find it naive of them. Oh, I've had my jab, and I just think, yeah, that doesn't mean much at all. It just means you're hopefully not going to get it as bad, but there's no guarantee.
One's going to relax like that, so I thought, well, you just do your thing, and I'll go along with it. You know.
No, that's absolutely perfectly, and that's exactly.
It's really good, really good.
It really felt like you were working with Barbara. And I was watching. I was thinking, are they going to touch? Are they going to touch? But how was it for you, Barbara?
Well, the first I was in my mind, I was on the training state, but I've already wanted to close my eyes down. So the second time I just wanted to close my eyes and I thought, sorry. So yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, suggestibility aside, just lovely handling of Barbara, you know, really nice. But yeah, even if you go off script, not a problem. That's what we're aiming to do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, this is just demonstrating a point about suggestibility. So yeah, really well done. Very good.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
To disappear again.
No, don't go, Debs. Don't go.
Oh, you're back. You're here. Right.
Rooms 4, 5, and 6 are kicking their heels because they're finished.
Right. Okay. I was going to look for you and say, should we come back in? So
I just want to ask a quick question though, right? Because obviously when you're watching other people, you reflect about your own when you're doing it yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like, so Leanne, when she does it now, she just like does it as if she's just talking normally.
Yeah.
And then when I do it, I like put on this funny voice. And I was thinking, well, should I be am I supposed to be doing that? I don't know. Like, does it?
I didn't feel you had a funny voice at all.
Did you not?
No.
Did you feel I had a funny voice, Leanne?
No, I don't know. What do you mean funny? As in you put on voice?
Yeah, like it changes. Like, because I try to go into a zone. See, that's what I try and do. I know, like, it's different for everyone. What sort of what you're doing.
I suppose really from what Debs and Heather said at the start of this is that I try and talk to people how I would want to be spoken to if I was paying for hypnosis. So I wouldn't want someone with really clipped speech. I'd want just longer sentences as if they were kind of giving me a lullaby. But you can still use your own voice, but it doesn't. Yeah.
I think you did, Kate. I think you just got used to the pace maybe of your voice because it's getting low. Because you don't normally speak that slow.
No,
and you said to me you're Welsh, so you're speaking quite quick. Did you
and relaxed and fall into your lap, and you will relax into a deep, restful state of hypnosis, and your hands and fingers will become very loose and limp and relaxed and fall into your lap, and you will relax into a deep and restful state of hypnosis.
So Jessica, please place your hands out in front of you like this, palms facing each other and about shoulder width apart, please. Now I want you to imagine that I'm placing an incredibly powerful magnet. Oh, we've got 28 seconds. We're about to get called back, so.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. We'll see you in the other room.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Right. We're all back.
Getting there.
Nearly there. Okay. How did everybody find that? Any comments?
I have a comment. Yeah, I think that the book and balloon one was probably the best for like online because it doesn't involve any sort of like touching or anything. Whereas reading through the hand magnet one, it requires touching of your client in the first two dry runs that you have, like to increase their suggestibility. So I felt like the book and balloon one worked the best.
Okay, anybody else got any other opinions on that?
It's amazing how suggestible we are.
Yeah, definitely. Were there any of those you didn't like?
I think
Who was that? Sorry.
my group didn't really like the balloon.
I can't.
The group ours didn't really like the book and balloon.
Oh,
We
right.
found the fingers one the best.
Oh, okay.
Rachel.
Yeah.
We had to go with the pendulums because we'd all got one.
Oh, right. You tried that one, right? Okay.
Yeah, we did, because I'd not done it before. And I had a question which Heather said was for Andrew, but I don't know if you know. It just says that we wondered, it says the pendulum can be an effective tool in acquiring information that is being processed more unconsciously, as well as a test of suggestibility. And I wondered why the pendulum was a test of suggestibility. I didn't understand why it actually was. Does nothing happen if you're not suggestible with it then?
I think they're all a test of suggestibility, aren't they? So sorry, what's your question exactly? So you're saying that you're saying it's not a test of suggestibility?
Because if it's going to move anyway, what?
Yeah, but it's
isn't that happening?
Yeah,
isn't that a physiological thing?
Sorry, it's about
that...
believing it. So
okay.
So you're dealing with the client's belief system. So even though perhaps it's going to move anyway, if you think about a lot of the things that your clients will be experiencing or feeling about themselves, they're not right necessarily. You know, they might think a terrible thing about themselves, or they might feel guilty, but they're not actually got a reason to feel guilty. So it's about changing their beliefs. So it's about them believing that it's happened. So it doesn't matter if it's actually happening or not.
Okay. So if they're happy to believe that the pendulum doing this says yes and that no, whether that's true or not, if they're happy to take that on as a suggestion, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I must admit, none of the groups I was dealing with, we avoided that one.
Yes, well, this is the troublesome group. I put two troublesome people together, and I have apologized to Claire most profusely, and it will never happen again.
Bruce, I would have used the pendulum as well.
I know, I'm very aware that some people have a massive reaction to pendulums, and I just thought it was interesting because I'd not done this particular exercise where you draw this out, because I'd never done it, so it was useful to do it and practice it. So thank you, Debbie, for that.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad some of you got something from that. Okay. Well, thank you for doing that. I think, there were all sorts of things I think people were getting from doing that. And again, at the end of the day, it's just about suggestibility. It's just a good way to build your own confidence sometimes, but to maybe build the client's confidence if they're feeling like maybe they won't be compliant, they think they can't do this. It's about encouraging them that they can. There isn't a can't as such. So and again, it's quite a good one to use if you were demonstrating anything, because particularly the balloon one, I think, is a very visual one, isn't it? It's an easy one to show, if you have a lot of people in the room. So if you were giving a talk and you had lots of people in the room and you were to demonstrate that, you're going to see it visibly how it's having so much effect on so many people. So it's quite a good one to use in that situation as well. So yeah, any other questions about that? No? Okay, right, I'm going to move on to looking at cues and signs of people being in hypnosis. So I'm just going to share my screen with you once again. Right, okay, so looking at signs and cues of hypnosis. Now, there's a few of you here that are a little bit more experienced, that you've been doing this for longer, so are already looking for some of these things because you know what to look for. But there are certain things that do change when somebody's about to go into hypnosis, and they're things that just help us to know where they are, what's going on, and whether they are sort of relaxing to the point where you're going to have some success with them. So it's good to know about these. Now, nobody's expecting you to see these all the time or to learn them all today and just feel like you have to watch all the time. But it's one of the reasons why it's so much better to work without a script, because you're actually watching your client and how they're behaving rather than sitting looking at a piece of paper or on an iPad or whatever it is you happen to use to look at your scripts. So really, you should be working with the client all the time, watching how they're responding to whatever is going on. So this is a good start to start looking for some of those cues. And when you're working in the practice this week, and if we get a bit of a time at the end today, we can start to do this with some of you certainly, is just beginning to actually watch what's happening as people are starting to go into hypnosis to help you and guide you really. And sometimes the changes with people are really not obvious at all. Sometimes very obvious, you know, so definitely, you know, it's really important to start to be aware of these things. They're often referred to as minimal cues. And as I said, they're just that indicator that your client is starting to go into that state of trance. But as I said, you won't see it with everybody. So don't panic and just think, oh, it's not happening. You know, sometimes people are more obvious than others. And some people will have more of these signs than others as well. Some people will do all of it. So, you know, it really will vary. So, as I said, when you're starting to do any of your, well, we're going to be doing solution focused scripts, I'm going to want you to start looking. Now, obviously, that's going to be easier for the observer because they're not actually having to deliver a script. So it's harder at the moment because you're obviously reading from a script. But try to avert your eyes at times and try and keep an eye when you are actually being the therapist as such. Okay, so some of the things to look for. Some of these things, they don't all happen whilst they're actually eyes closed. Sometimes you start to see this happening when you're just talking to them. And this is why you'll see on some of Andrew's demonstrations that he will be talking to somebody, he will see that sign and he will say, close your eyes, and he will work with them there and then. And there will be minimal induction and sometimes not even at all, because he knows they're already in that trance-like state. And one of the ways he might see that sometimes, obviously sometimes because they're getting emotional, but they start to get this eye fixation, which is like a sort of a dreamy trance-like look. Whilst they're still, you know, with eyes open. So what's actually happening is as you're perhaps talking to your client about whatever their issue may be, they're already starting to process this very internally. So they're kind of starting to go inside. So that's something to watch for as you start to become more experienced, that you will just know that they are susceptible at that point. They're going to be very compliant, and almost to carry on talking sometimes at that point, you might miss that opportunity of where they are. So do watch some of the demonstrations where Andrew's done that, and you'll just see that he will just notice that and he will go with it. So that's something that I wouldn't suggest necessarily in the early days, but that is something to watch for. And it is a, you know, sort of proof that you don't have to be lying there looking as if you're half asleep and dozy to be in hypnosis. You're almost there already. Another thing to look for, pupil dilation. Now, this works if you're doing something where you're working with the client initially with their eyes open. So remember last week we talked about the eye fixation technique where you're looking directly at them. So you would then spot, if you're very up close and you're doing that eye gaze, you might see that their pupils are actually dilating. But this isn't necessarily an easy one to see, and it's certainly not going to be one that you're going to see if you're working with somebody who's already got their eyes closed and you're looking for signs. But that can be something, if you are doing that direct eye gaze, that you might start to notice, and that might be a sign that they are starting to go into trance. Change in blink reflex is something else to look for. So this is really only relevant again if the subject's got their eyes open during the induction, So you might start to see it in something like some of those ones we were just doing, where you know, the magnetic fingers or the magnetic hands, where they have got their eyes open sometimes. So you would start to see the signs that there will be a change in blink reflex, and or even if you're just working with them in that conversational part at the beginning. So when you're actually having that initial chat, really trying to get to the bottom of what the client's issues are, you might start to look for things like this. So there's signs that they're starting to become more compliant and ready, if you like, to go into hypnosis and starting to go there. Eyelid flutter, usually a very good sign of somebody who's going to be quite a good subject. You start to see that their eyes are fluttering as they start to go. So as you're sort of talking them down, their eyelids start to flutter rapidly, and that's generally a good sign that they're going to go inside quite quickly and quite easily. So that's a good sign to watch for as well. Now, I appreciate these all sound like quite a lot to be looking for all the time. That will come with experience, and it'll come when you notice it, when you start to know what to look for. Okay. Something that's can be a very good sign once the client's in hypnosis, to give you an idea of where they are in that process, is REM, so rapid eye movement, as in when you know, like almost like dream sleep, you know, what we experience there. It's almost like they're watching on a film, you know, what's actually going on, and they're really experiencing it. So it's a really good sign, again, that they've focused inwards and they really are there, you know, either in it or watching it, but they are, you know, the eyes going from side to side in the same way as it would with sleep. So you will see that sometimes, even with their eyes closed, you'll see that the eyes are moving side to side. But again, don't expect this from everybody, because you won't see this with everybody. These, you know, these are said, you'll see a variety of some of these. You might see one or two of these. You might not notice them very much with some people at all. But that's definitely a good sign, that one. Okay, eyeballs rolling as they're going into a trance. That might be something you'd start to notice, that they sort of seem to roll automatically. And sometimes they might just stay like that, you know, be doing that all the time throughout. So that's again something that you can watch for. Eyes opening once they're in trance, that can happen, and it can feel a little bit like, oh, have they come out, you know? Or it can just be a little bit spooky to watch somebody doing that. But sometimes that will happen with some people, and their eyes will almost appear to be half open throughout the session. But it's not something to worry about. It's just something that can happen. Okay. Things that happen sort of more that you won't necessarily see quite so obviously, things like the facial muscles. A bit like when somebody falls asleep, it looks like, you know, that everything relaxes, doesn't it? The face, the muscles soften and everything. And this fits very much with some of the inductions that you're giving them. You're kind of suggesting that this is going to happen. But it does actually happen. So that look of a softer, smoother look around the eyes and the face, jaw muscles loosening, you know, as I say, you'll probably recognize some of these things from some of the scripts that you've looked at, because you're encouraging that to happen. So that power of suggestion, but this is just one of the signs to look for as well. Again, breathing slowing down, it's something we tell them that's happening quite often in some of the inductions, but you will again perhaps start to notice that. Sometimes people might look as if they've fallen asleep, and occasionally they do. And if that happens, the best thing to do is kind of let it happen a little bit, and then verbally bring them back, and then kind of go back to where you were and carry on. Unless they've gone so far and they're snoring, you might actually have to sort of wake them up and start again. But try and pick up from where you were, and just take them back a few steps and just carry on. So it does happen sometimes, but very rarely. It's usually men, actually, it seems to be. It's just a tired day's work and they've gone. So, but it's not something to worry about. The other thing is something called the reduction or cessation of the swallowing reflex. So somebody looks like they might be struggling to swallow. So I think Andrew's got a few different views on this. It's not something to worry about. It might be something they feel they worry about. You know, if they're aware of the fact they feel like they're almost not quite breathing properly, it's just to reassure them, but it's considered to be a sign of just going a little bit deeper. Okay, so as I said, again, I don't think I've come across that as yet. I don't know if you have, Heather, but it's just something that you can notice. Have you come across that, Heather?
No, I just noticed that the swallowing just slows down and sometimes just disappears as they go more and more into it.
Yeah, so as I said, it's something that if it was feeling like, you know, they were struggling, like they might be feeling they couldn't breathe, or if you had somebody that was a bit nervous, they're not really going to not be breathing, but they just might need a little bit of reassurance and encouragement that that's okay and that they're just going deeper. So that's usually what it is, a sign of. Losing my voice tonight. The other thing, limpness and immobility of the limbs, which again we encourage through some of the suggestions that we give sometimes, depending on what script you're using or what sort of approach you're using for your inductions. So if you remember some of the scripts that you've read, talking about their limbs feeling heavy, almost like they can't move them. And it's just that, you know, quite often I'll have a client will say, gosh, I just really felt like I couldn't move them. You know, they really do sort of take that on board. So that sometimes they will have that very, very heavy feeling. Some people feel very light. You get a real mixture of feelings. I think some people have actually reported that the hands felt really big, these sort of things. So it's just, again, it's encouraging. We encourage that through the induction anyway, but that does kind of happen. It's almost like you're closing down slightly to a certain level. So they're just some of the things that you can look for. Some of those are not quite so easy to see when you're actually doing it. And you don't have to see all of them. These are just things to help you really as you go. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Heather? Anything you can think of?
No, I've just got a question here from Phoebe. What about dizziness or spinning?
Right, now that does happen sometimes. Now that I've had that happen quite recently with a client actually. Sometimes that can happen if they're resisting. In this particular case, this client was resisting going somewhere, and it did make her feel quite dizzy and sick to begin with. So, and you sometimes you'll also get the some people, depending on where they're holding the emotion, people, their throat feels like they might block up, not while they're going into hypnosis, it's probably more while they're there and perhaps don't want to go where they need to go. But sometimes head as well, the head will start to hurt. But these aren't things that necessarily happen all the time, and they're not things you can necessarily see. But if a client is needing to go somewhere that's quite difficult and they're holding on, it's kind of a sense of resistance that can give those sort of things as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Phoebe. I mean, to say it's not something to expect, but it's something that could, you know, a client could report that they're feeling that way. And from my experience, that's usually been what it is. That it's something like that. It's sometimes a form of resistance where they're holding on, or perhaps, you know, they're a little bit scared of what's coming up, because when you get to the deeper stuff and you're looking at sort of abreactions and going into sort of problems from the past and so on, sometimes they're not ready to go there or don't want to go there, so they'll be hanging on, and physically that will come out in their body.
Yeah.
Okay, but hopefully nothing you need to worry about yet. Okay. Okay, so any other questions about that? I mean, there's just some basics that you can start to look for. What I would urge you to do now is, whenever you are doing a session with each other in practice, is to try and just, even if you're just looking for one or two of those things, just start to notice some of the changes that you can see taking place. And as I said, it's easier for an observer to do that because you're not actually trying to deliver the script. But once you get to the point where you're not always working with scripts, it becomes so much easier. You know, when you say, Heather, you're really just working with the client, aren't you? When you're not using a script, you're watching them, aren't you?
Yeah, I struggled with using scripts right from the beginning.
Yeah. Does anybody else feel that way about scripts so far?
Yeah, I do massively.
Yeah. But that's how, as I say, we don't really want you to go out there and be using scripts. That's not, that's not the approach really that you want to take. And the further you go down the line, it'll easier it'll become for you not to do that. And it'll feel intuitive to go with what feels right based on the conversations you're having with the client, what they need, and your own approach. So, that will become easier. And things like looking for these signs, again, it will just become intuitive. You will just start to notice that. But at this point, at least it gives you some things to start to list, to look for. Okay.
Got another question.
Yes. Okay.
If their eyes are open, is it obvious they're still in trance or they've come out of it?
Oh, well, I mean, if you're looking at when you've got that sort of eye fixation at the beginning, where you could see it from things like that. I have had times where somebody has got to a point where it's very upsetting, and it's brought them out. So sometimes that can happen. Hasn't happened very often, but I would say the sort of things to be looking for would be the thing with the eye fixation, that dreamy state, to see if they're still there. Are they still inside even though their eyes are open? So you could start to look at things like that. Does that answer your question? Is that a yes or a no?
Sorry, not got anything.
Hi, Debbie, it was me. I was just wondering, obviously, if they're open but they're still in trance.
Yes.
You'd behave and continue differently than if they'd actually come out of trance.
It depends if you're certain that they still are, because you don't need to. I mean, the things you would look for to see if they were still in trance would be the things here on this first one where we were looking at when the eyes are open. So you would look to those signs to know. But I would say, no, you shouldn't really change the way you are. You would continue as you were. And there are some people, I haven't had anybody that's done this to me, but some people that don't close their eyes. So have you had anybody like that, Heather?
Not really, but if I'm talking to someone and they're just staring in the distance, I just kind of know I'm talking to a different version of them.
Absolutely. But that normally happens, doesn't it, in the initial chat, where you're actually building that rapport, you're finding out more about their issue and what it is they want to solve, possibly going into their background. It's normally at that point that you would see that.
So just a question. So you would not address the eye opening at all? You would not say, because sometimes they might be uncomfortable in their chair or so how would you address that?
I think it would be obvious if they'd just come out. It's like sometimes you might see somebody's getting a bit agitated and moving around, and I've had situations, in fact it happened to me when I had hypnosis with Andrew, because I wanted to go to the loo all the way through.
Yeah.
It was just like, and that is something that's a good idea to always ask your clients. If you've just had a conversation at the beginning, before they actually you get to that point, just say, did you need to use the ladies or whatever beforehand? It's very distracting. But if somebody was moving about and appeared to be a little bit agitated, I would check in with them. And sometimes again that can be resistance. I've had people say I could feel my body was trying to say no.
All right.
So
okay.
Yeah, in that situation, pick up on it. But I think if somebody was opened their eyes and they still appeared to be in that dreamy state that Heather was describing, where they are still internally there, I personally would carry on as normal. I wouldn't pay attention to it.
All right. Thank you.
Debbie, can I just say, for instance, you were on Zoom.
Yeah.
You heard a noise, maybe whether it's the doorbell or a dog barking or something happened, and then the client opened their eyes, then I would suspect that they'd come out.
Yes, yeah, that I mean, if they were usually if that happens, I mean, I had it once where Zoom went, so you have to kind of go back, is just stay very calm and just say, right, okay, and just go back a few steps.
Right.
Make sure that they're okay, but just go back a few steps and that'll be fine.
And they'll go back in.
Yeah. And you occasionally you could get somebody who's really struggling with the whole idea of doing it. So, you know, I think I had somebody not so long ago, actually, who was just so uptight and finding it so hard to relax that we had to do a couple of attempts. So I think the thing you need to do is just stay calm yourself and just take a step back and just make them feel like they're not doing anything wrong. Because
it's all normal.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. Just keep really, really calm and just take a step back and just say, that's fine, we'll do it again, or perhaps we can try it a different way or something, because you will get sometimes a very, very nervous person who will be struggling with that. So don't draw too much attention to it, keep it calm.
Debbie, can I just say, one time when Andrew was doing a demonstration and we were watching, he had a lady and she was sat there, and it was quite a deep one where he was doing regression, and her daughter walked in.
Right.
And her daughter walked in. It was quite amazing to watch. That's why I thought I'd mention it. Her daughter walked in. She opened her eyes. She said to her daughter, I'm busy at the moment. She closed her eyes and she went straight back in, and it was like it never happened.
Yeah.
So it is worth just mentioning that, because it sort of at the time I went, good God, she's gone straight back to it. She literally, it's as though didn't miss a beat, as though it hadn't happened. So that was quite an interesting one to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can have that if there was a sudden noise in the room. That, you know, I think I work from a log cabin, and I sometimes have pigeons run across the room, and they'll suddenly like, oh, what's that? But yeah, if they're so far there and they're in that zone, as long as you don't react and just go with it, there's no reason why, you know. And I'm sure you stayed very calm, didn't he? And
he didn't at all. He just kept going, and she just like floated on. So no, it's just worth pointing out, because that, for watching it, it was like, oh my God, that happened, and she just like went straight back. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the key in all of this is, you know, just stay calm, and so that they, you know, don't draw attention to it, really. So
Debbie?
Yes.
Previously, when Jessica was doing an induction on me, there was an internet interruption.
Yeah.
And as soon as we went back, we went straight back into it. Yeah. And for me, it was as though nothing had happened.
Yeah, I think I was watching that one, didn't I? Yeah, because I think I'd said to you, I've had that happened with a client on Zoom. And actually, it can happen. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't all. It
made no difference at all. It was as though it hadn't happened for me.
Yeah, that's good. It's really good for everybody to know that, I think, and the other example of Andrew as well, because it's not something you have to worry about. Because I think at this early stage, it could be something where you think, oh my goodness, it's all going to go wrong now, you know, but it doesn't have to be. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that, both of you. That's really, really helpful. Okay, any other questions on things to look for? Nope.
Not for me.
Okay, I don't think we're going to have time to actually get into that tonight, because I think we're sort of nearly 5 to now anyway. But the intention for the practice this week is to start working with suggestion scripts, which you'll find at the end of module 2. And so for the observers, certainly to be watching for some of these cues and perhaps take a note of them and discuss them afterwards. And if you can, as the person who's delivering the script, to try and keep half an eye on the client wherever you can, to get into the habit of watching how the client's responding and how they're reacting. So that's really what you're working with this week. Building you up to next week, we're going to start to do whole sessions. So, with all the other bits that come with it. So, so that's pretty much where we are. So before, as I say, I'm aware it's not quite 9 o'clock, but is there anything that anybody else wants to add or comment on or ask about before we sort of close up for tonight?
Can you just go over what abreaction is again, Debbie, please?
I haven't really gone over it at all.
Oh, haven't you? Have you mentioned it before? I thought you mentioned it before.
Yeah, we will go into that. I'll tell you what it is, but it will go into that in a lot more depth once we get to, I think it's module 5, which is all to do with regression therapy, where you are starting to get, it's an emotional reaction to something.
Okay.
So if somebody goes back to something where somebody did something to them and they're really upset about it or something like that, they will have an abreaction. So they may cry or they may get angry. something that you're going to have to get used to dealing with. You know, I joke sometimes and say I make people cry every day, but it's a little bit like that sometimes. but it's in a positive way. But that's what an ab reaction is, quite simply.
Okay.
Okay.
I've seen people talking about their past, so they haven't been under hypnosis, and they've suddenly started doing involuntary shaking.
Yes.
And I think that's the same.
Yes, I mean, I had a client that was, it was a grief, actually he came to me about insomnia, but it turned out to be grief, sort of that had, you know, sort of not been dealt with for his mother. And he'd gone to a happy moment back in his past when he was 5 and he was playing on the floor in the kitchen with his mum there. And that immediately brought back the fact that his mum wasn't there anymore. And this man was 60 years old. And I think it was probably one of the worst ab reactions I'd had, but he was shaking for about 20 minutes. He had a complete sort of, you know, tears, everything. But wow, he sleeps well now. So, so it did its work, and it completely took him by surprise because it wasn't at all what he was expecting. But yeah, it was a very physical reaction he had to it as well. But it was a very positive thing for him, and quite quickly as well. So, okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Debbie, is it right? I've heard that shaking, because we've done it in a yoga class, you know, shaking, and it actually lets emotions out of your body. Is that right? Or
no, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that, but that makes sense. That makes
sense. Sorry, very quickly, Debs.
Yeah, sure.
Did I interrupt there, Claire?
No, I just wondered if anyone else had heard that.
No, I that's worth knowing, actually.
Yeah, Claire, we did that in stress management. Yes, we actually on purpose let them shake so they could.
Yeah, we did it in a yoga class once, and we were told that it actually allows
to get it
emotions that are held in your body to come out.
It makes sense to be like an energy release almost as well.
When I did my yoga teacher training, they touched on that, and it's the same as like a bastrika as well. Do you know, like the noises is like that's releasing emotion and energy as well. So yeah,
hypnosis.
Something to Sorry, Leanne. What was it hypnosing? Leanne, what were you going to say?
Sorry, Leanne.
It's okay, don't worry. I was just going to ask, when a client cries, is that a positive thing? That's a form of release?
Yes, it is, yeah. We'll go into that a lot more. We won't be doing it just yet, but yes, you are looking to get that release. I mean, you're not looking to make everybody cry, but yes, it's a positive.
It helps.
So, okay, right, okay. I think we're sort of pretty much done for tonight. I'll see you all tomorrow at practice, and get ready. I'd read up on your cues tonight. It's all in the module anyway, so just read up on those and start looking at some of those suggestion scripts and think about which ones you might like to do tomorrow and Friday as well with Heather. So those of you that can make Friday anyway. Okay, do you know how many for Friday that might be able to make Friday as well? Okay, that's great. Okay, it's really good. Friday's good because you get very personalised experience, don't you, Heather?
Because only about 2 rooms of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Then they'll all sign up for Friday and wonder where the personal touch has gone.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, well, I'll let you all go and enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.